Do you want to know the consequences of overprotected children? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about what happens if you overprotect your children. So in this video, we're going to talk about what overprotecting looks like and why people engage in that. And we're going to talk about some of the consequences for that type of behavior and what we can do instead. So what does it look like to overprotect children? I think people don't know where that line is. And truthfully, I don't really want to tell somebody this is exactly what you have to do to protect or that's overprotecting. So I guess there's quite a bit of subjectivity or, your preference actually when you're deciding how to parent your children. But we have noticed in recent years that many children are struggling making decisions. They're struggling stepping out of comfort zones. They're not launching properly into adulthood. In fact, they don't want to at all. There's an increase in anxiety. And by the way, every single person has anxiety, like every single one. But there is an increase in people claiming that that's an actual diagnosis that they have. Now, there's also the real thing, and there's people who have a harder time dealing with anxiety than others. That's a real thing. I've worked with people and done treatment for people like that. However, there's also this anxiety that comes because a person hasn't had a chance to launch out yet, because they haven't had a chance to have some grown-up experiences, to try some things, to have enough failures, because failures is a big thing for teaching someone that they are going to be okay as an adult. So let's look at what childhood is. I mean, childhood is this time to try stuff. Childhood is this time to be a little bit brave, a little rebellious, a little adventurous sometimes maybe. This is what childhood is like for most children. They push past little boundaries and test them to see if the boundaries really are true. They're trying to figure out what's true and what's not true. If a parent does not give the child the opportunity to push against any of those boundaries, then the child does not think that they can actually accomplish anything outside of the normal. They actually don't know if they can solve their problems because maybe they haven't encountered enough problems to solve. So why is it that parents would choose to overprotect their children? Well, we all want to keep our children protected, and the world is changing. Okay, there are a lot of things that are happening out there. I mean, really gone are the days where most children get the opportunity to walk to school. And why is that? Well, there's so much rape, there's so much sex trafficking and child abuse and abduction. And I mean, it's just the rates are so much higher. People are being more overt in their deviant behaviors. And so we just don't know if we can trust the safety, even just bodily safety of our child, to somebody else. Many parents don't let their children drive with other people's children, and it's because, there's so many accidents and they want to protect the child's safety. So in an effort to protect the child from having to go through something terrible or traumatic, or really, I guess we could look at it this way, in an effort to protect themselves as parents from having to experience something very difficult or traumatic, then the parents are saying, nope, we're not going to have that experience. And we will have this experience, but it will be very planned, very structured, and we will not have these other types of things. I mean, I remember when I was a child going to the dairy by my house. We're talking manure everywhere, cows, all kinds of things, okay? I remember going in there in my bare feet into ponds of who knows what, looking for frogs, catching frogs. I mean, the chance of me getting some sort of E. coli was very high. To my knowledge, I never had E. coli. If I did, my mom probably called it the flu, and I was sick for a little bit, a few days or something. But honestly, we did so many dangerous things around bodies of water and all kinds of stuff because, well, that was just our environment where we lived. And if something happened, then, well, a danger would happen. I will say there were a couple of dangerous things that happened. There was a friend of mine, I remember in the 4th grade, who ended up having a tragic death because something a piece of clothing that he was wearing got caught on something when he was just trying to do a normal childhood thing that would be a normal, very low-level danger thing. And he ended up dying, you know, because of it. And so are there risks? Oh yeah, there's a lot of risks. And I think parents are like, I don't want to face any of those consequences. I don't want to face any of those risks. But what they're not seeing is that there actually are consequences to not being willing to accept other consequences for some of those more daring behaviors. I'm going to talk about some of those consequences for the overprotecting. But before I do you see that button that says subscribe? Click that button, because there's so many things on here that I'm going to be referring to that you'll want to get more information about. Okay, so many people protect their children because they don't want a hard thing to happen. But what they don't see, there's always what is seen and what is not seen, okay? That's a principle. There's what is seen that we can tangibly look at and go, yep, cause, effect, that happened. But then there's what is not seen. There's the cause and effect that might slip right by us that we don't recognize, and we go looking for someone to blame for it, and we don't recognize that it could possibly be us. So there are things that happen when a child is overprotected, when they don't get the opportunity to step out of their comfort zone, to make mistakes, to try new things. There actually are some bad things that can happen. One of the biggest things that happens is they will end up oftentimes with low confidence, and their low confidence increases their anxiety. So that's actually a consequence. Anxiety can be a consequence of overprotecting. When you have higher levels of anxiety, when you are faced with a problem, you get very, very emotional. And so that can then lead to emotional issues where you don't know how to handle your problems, you don't know how to problem solve. That's another consequence. When you overprotect your children, they don't get the chance to get the bumps and the scrapes and the bruises and things. You don't get to put as many band-aids on and show them it's okay to get bumped around, it's okay to break an arm, it's okay. All of those little moments where they get hurt are times where they see life's okay. I'm strong. I can get through things. It's going to be fine. People have boo-boos and scrapes and blood and stuff all the time. Instead, they might feel like, oh no, this is very serious. Every feeling that they get could feel incredibly serious because they haven't gotten the opportunities to go through some of those normal just knocks and bumps of life. When a child doesn't get the opportunity to experience a lot of hard things, then they end up dependent on their parents because they're afraid to take risks. So when you control too much about your child's life or you overprotect them too much, they may actually think that they always need you to solve their problems, and that will make it so they won't launch from your home. I already mentioned this, but it's worth twice mentioning, and that is entitlement. Your children do develop a higher level of entitlement if you are always there keeping them safe and never giving them the opportunity to choose to keep themselves safe. Then they have someone to blame. So this is another very big problem. People who have been overprotected don't think of the bad things that happen in their life as their fault. They don't accept consequences for their own decisions. They don't even want to acknowledge their own decisions. Everything is somebody else's fault, so they're always looking for an excuse or a scapegoat. This is not healthy. Social development, psychological development, even physical development, because the person is now going to step back from absolutely anything that could be a possible risk because they don't want to take personal responsibility either. Not only are we going to start blaming other people, but now this person that's been overprotected is going to start not allowing themselves to move forward because they aren't sure that they will be an immediate success or that they can keep themselves safe or somebody else safe. I don't know if you've noticed, but in recent years, children are having less children. They are starting less businesses. They are getting less degrees. So we had a time where people were having families but not getting as many degrees, and then we had times where people were having families and degrees, and now we're having a time where we're having people not go to school or finish school and not have a family and maybe not have a career. That's an interesting thing, don't you think? And this really has become a trend. Right now it's in the 20-year-olds, really heavily in the 20-year-olds, you know, upper 20-year-olds and down, because the children were overprotected. Everything was provided for them, and so they feel very disempowered to live adult lives, and they're actually afraid of having children sometimes. Like if you talk to them, they'll admit that. Well, I don't want to have a good child. Well, I'd probably ruin them. What if I ruined them? Well, I mean, couldn't any parent ruin a child, right? But we just keep having children anyway because we know that that's how we learn, and that's the path to success, and that's how life is. And that's just, you know, more of a holistic view. But there's this very like finite focus where it's like, listen, if they can't be perfect, I'm not doing it, because the child that's been overprotected is used to being perfect at a lot of things. So what are some things that you can do to help your children maybe not have it so easy, learn some adult skills, learn to problem solve, teach them self-government? This whole channel is called the Teaching Self-Government channel. It's all about teaching children self-mastery, and it starts with 4 basic skills. Those 4 basic skills help the child learn that they can accept no answers, they can follow instructions, they can accept consequences, they can take responsibility, they can talk over a problem with somebody else, they can be calm when they really don't feel like they want to. They can choose all of those things. Those 4 basic skills actually take care of 99% of behavioral problems. And when you correct your child and you praise your child, you teach them cause and effect and self-analysis on a regular basis, that child will turn to self-corrections, self-praises. They will move them forward in a self-governed way over time. But it starts in your home. So if you've enjoyed this video, I have another video that I highly recommend watching next. And it's all about the nuts and bolts to teaching self-government. And it will go into some detail about some of these skills. That video is called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. Click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.